Hello, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Yes. So what's great fun about being later in the program is I get to hear what everybody else says before me, and I can see both what resonates, but also steal little snippets from what they said. So I was furiously writing down in my seat, and so much of what our previous speakers have said have very much been a part of my journey. So things like say yes when you're presented with opportunity, lean into your discomfort and take some risk, and oh, by the way, when it goes wrong, call your mama. So all of those were part of my journey. Now, for those of you who are sitting in the audience who aren't on stage, you probably aren't aware that we got to select our own intro music. And so I purposely selected Joni Mitchell for two reasons. And the first of which, and she fought the term feminist, but she was an absolute huge champion of women and empowering women to pursue their passions, but also women to protect their own rights. And she paved the way for artists like Taylor Swift to take control of her own rights of her own music. And I'm going to share a little personal journey with you because the CNBC team asked me to speak about someone who really influenced my career and set me on my direction. And of course, no surprise, ladies, it was my mama. And yes. And honestly, I truly believe that if this award or this recognition existed 30 years ago, my mother would have been a CNBC changemaker. And why is that? Because my mom grew up in a very traditional Italian family of all boys, one girl, and her father told her the only career options that were available to her were to be either a nurse or a teacher as a placeholder until she got married. And she was having none of that. So she had a little bit of a rebel in her, and she said she wanted to go and get a higher education, put herself through business school. Father wouldn't pay for it, and she did all sorts of odd jobs to ultimately put herself through school. And when she was in business school, she had the wonderful opportunity to meet my father, who was in flight training as an Air Force pilot. And then she began to move around the world, because my father, we moved every 2 years growing up as he was stationed in different places around the world. And there weren't many job opportunities or real opportunities as you are following your husband back in the 60s and 70s. But what you were expected to do was be the good wife and entertain. So that's what she did. So she started hosting all sorts of dinner parties, and that ignited a real passion in her, and that was a passion for food. And fast forward several years later, she had this vision to put cooking shows on television. And we ultimately were stationed in Boston, and she took her pitch around to the 4 then networks that existed. And guess what? They were all run by men. And guess what those men said? Young lady, no one will ever want to watch a cooking show on TV. It is not commercially viable. And she was not going to take no for an answer. So she had this vision, and she pushed that vision and ultimately found the one television show that would take her, which was PBS, the public broadcasting system that had an obligation to put public broadcasting shows on TV. They stuck her in a really horrible slot, like 11 o'clock on a Thursday night, and guess what? It went viral. So I basically say my mom, the previous changemaker or the de facto changemaker, pretty much founded what we know as the Food Network, because she was on TV. And then we became friends of all the great chefs, and she was rolling out these shows on television. So then when it came to my career, that little bit of rebel in me said, I'm going to lean into a place that was not obvious, and I went into investment banking. And I 99.9999% male. And not only did I do that, I decided to take the hard route, because your very traditional career within investment banking, the easy route in a sense was, or the obvious route, was to follow your MDs who were covering the large cap, mature companies back in the day, like AT&T and IBM. But I had that little bit of a rebel in me, and I wanted to finance these high growth, early stage, very unproven companies. But you know what? I call those the industries of the future. And they became the cell phone companies, they became the cable companies. So I had a long and really wonderful career in investment banking, raising hundreds of billions of capital for these media and telecom companies because I went a different route. And then fast forward to Act 2, I was presented with an opportunity by my then CEO to drop what was supposedly the dream job, running investment banking with $1 billion budget and 1,000 people, and take on this new opportunity to do this thing that it was hardly able to be articulated, and that was sustainability. And I said yes. I leaned in to something that was completely unknown, white sheet of paper and an assistant after I passed the baton on investment banking. And it has been the most rewarding, wonderful thing I could have ever imagined. And I say today my day job is to mobilize capital at scale to try to solve some of the world's biggest challenges. So my job today is incredibly purposeful. It's really, really difficult, especially now. But my bank is very much focused on the developing world that is really disproportionately affected by climate change. So every dollar of capital that I raise that can be deployed to solve environmental and social challenges, it really matters to the world. And I cannot tell you how wonderful it is. And now I say, coming full circle, what am I doing? I get to finance the new industries of the future, which frankly are going to be the sustainable businesses. And there are 1, 2, or 3 disruptors for every major industry that are sustainable companies, and that's my day job. So it's been a wonderful journey. That little rebel in me is still there on my shoulder, always bucking the trend when people say something can't be done. Oceans are uninvestable from a private capital point of view. I say bring it on, and next thing you know, 3 weeks later, we raised $500 million for an ocean engagement fund. I did the first capital markets instrument for animal conservation called the Rhino Bond, hired the first head of nature in a bank, and all these things. So the ability to sort of really not listen when people tell you something can't be done, believe in the power of your convictions, and try to marry purpose with your day job will result in, I think, a very long and happy life. So I am absolutely thrilled to be recognized for the work to try to deliver impact at scale. So thank you, CNBC, because when you do things like this, when you put the spotlight on those of us who are slogging it out every day, it does help us do our job. It gives us a platform to try to do more. And I think that's probably what motivates a lot of us to be in the room. So I'm very, very grateful, and looking forward to meeting all of you. And thank you very much, CNBC.